Glad you all could join us once again. And we are, top of the hour, we're going to be continuing our conversation on what happened yesterday in terms of the news. But first and foremost, we're going to be joined by our next guest. They are on tour, voter mobilization, voter registration throughout the South, really kicking off in earnest today. Joining us now from Black Voters Matter, LaTosha Brown once again. LaTosha, how are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Aretha got me fired up this morning.
I know that's right. It's a lot going on. It's definitely a lot going on.
I was like, oh, my goodness. I was like, this is the perfect song. I was all fired up. So how are you?
I'm good. So where are you guys this morning?
We are headed to, we're actually going to get the bus, and we are headed to our send-off, which we're having our send-off in Stockbridge, which is Henry County, right outside of Atlanta. So we're making our stops, and at 9 a.m. we will start in Henry County, Georgia, and Stockbridge, which is right outside of Metro, right outside of Atlanta. It's experienced a lot of growth, African Americans moving in that area in the last few years, and there's a sizable population, and we want people to we got to get up. You got to wake up. Come on, got to wake up and vote. Wake up and register to vote. So we're moving. That's our first stop today, and then after that, we're going to Warner Robins. We're going to spend some time in Fort Valley. Then we'll wind up in Randolph County. We're going down to Randolph County. We have a rally that we're doing in solidarity with the community down there, which most people may have heard. Just recently, the local election board, had moved to close of the 9 polling places, 7 of the 9 polling places in this majority African-American county in rural Georgia. So we will wind up in Randolph County this evening at 5 o'clock. We've got a rally, and then we're going over to Albany and see our friends over with the Southwest Georgia Project, right. And we've got a dinner discussion there today.
So tell us a bit more about this county where they're trying to close the polling places, if you would, LaTosha.
You know, it's interesting. In Georgia, 10 counties that have sizable African-American populations have actually experienced closures of polling sites. Mm-hmm. Just recently, about a week ago, there was no real public announcement. There was actually a legal announcement that was put in the paper. One of the local civic leaders in that area was reading the paper. He reads the legal section. When he gets down to the legal section, he realizes that the election board has a proposal to close of this county, of the entire county. They're going to close, there's 9 polling places. They're going to close 7 of the 9, which means it only leaves 2. And so immediately he sounded the alarm, and social justice activist ACLU put out an open letter, and they're doing some work around it. New Georgia Project, the People's Agenda is doing some work around it. So a lot of community organizations and civic-based groups are actually doing a lot of work around it to make sure that this does not happen, that people don't lose access to the ballot in this particular county.
And I know that I had read or had been informed. You may have mentioned this yesterday yourself, that people are petitioning to stop this. And I think there's a hearing toward the end of the week where people may actually be able to raise some concern and try to prevent it at the hearing as well.
That's correct. So there's a movement now where people are collecting signatures of 20% of the voting base, which is around about 800 people, to get 800 signatures so that when it comes up for a vote on Friday, that the election board does not vote, that it protects the interests of that community. You know, what's really interesting around it is there is a consultant how this came about is what the election board is actually saying is that that is not the polling places are not ADA compliant. And I guess my question would be, why? I mean, there's a couple of questions. One, why aren't they compliant? Why do we have a Secretary of State who is actually the Republican nominee running for governor? So it's almost like you got the fox over the hen house. Why isn't? And then if that is an issue, we know when elections are coming. Elections are set year after year. We know when an election is coming. Why are you going to change and close? And you discover that like not just a few months shy of an election where the person who is responsible for voter integrity and making and oversees election is leading the Republican ticket. So there's something my grandfather always would say: if you smell a rat, there's a dead rat somewhere in the house.
Yeah, yeah. So moving throughout Georgia this morning and today, also on the line with us with Black Voters Matter. Folks, don't forget the website is blackvotersmatterfund.org. That's blackvotersmatterfund.org. Cliff Albright is here with us. Cliff, what's happening, man? How you feeling this morning?
Hey, I'm great, Brother Mark. Thank you so much for having us both on today.
All right, so you're going to be out here today with LaTosha. You all are going to be reaching out to voters. So just to be clear, this is part of this is mobilizing already registered voters, but it's also registering new voters too. Is that the case?
Yes, that's the case. And before I go further on that, I just want to mention, on this conversation about Randolph County, that this is exactly the kind of move, exactly the kind of poll closings that prior to the gutting of the Voting Rights Act would have needed to be pre-cleared.
Yeah, right. And that's why we were fighting to keep the Voting Rights Act intact so there could be that pre-clearance.
Exactly. And this is exactly the kind of thing that has happened since the Voting Rights Act was gutted and that pre-clearance was taken away, that counties and officials are able to do this kind of thing, and there's no official thing that blocks them or causes them to hesitate and get some clearance. So I just wanted to raise that. But to your question, yes, this is about registration. Part of our focus has traditionally been on mobilization. We know that we have a lot of partners that are really great at registration. We do voter registration as well, and our special niche has really been how do we turn all these new folks, older folks, inactive voters, whatever, how do we mobilize and speak to them in a different way that makes them want to come out, that makes them want to do something that they have not been in the habit of doing. So that's really our special niche. But as part of that, and because we're able to get a little bit of earlier start than we traditionally are able to get, we are putting more energy into registration. So that is part of what this tour is about, and that's part of the reason why we have some incredible partners that are going to be joining us on this tour, like New Georgia Project, which is great at doing voter registration, like organizations like Spread the Vote that help people to get voter IDs. So, yes, we're going to be focusing on getting people registered, on getting more volunteers that will then continue to get people registered, and then on creating a message and a community platform that will really mobilize people to want to turn out in November.
LaTosha Brown, again, Black Voters Matter, quarter before the hour. LaTosha, before we go, and we're going to be talking to you tomorrow morning as well, and getting updates as we go along. This will be the first big splash today. We'll hear tomorrow what voters say to you, LaTosha. But what do you anticipate today are going to be some of the feedback and some of the concerns you get from some of the voters you engage? What do you think are going to be their top issues?
Some of the core pieces that we've been hearing over and over again from voters in Georgia and people who are concerned is education has been like the number one concern across the board, no matter where we go. Particularly in the African American community, a concern around having quality education and the closing of local schools and the control of the school board, representation on the school board. Over and over again, we hear that consistently. The second thing that is really probably more tailored to an issue that we hear over and over again when we're going to rural counties and rural communities is really around the rising cost of utilities. People are really concerned around folks who are living on fixed incomes, who have limited resources are actually really worried about how utility costs, raising of utility costs has impacted them. And then probably number one has really been healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Like outside of education, healthcare, having the expansion of Medicaid,
right.
Having older citizens that live in these communities, also the closing would have ultimately had this like trickle effect where now you've got a lot of rural hospitals have closed, so you don't have actually access to health care. So it's one thing to be able to have access to health care and access to insurance. So those are the things that we really believe that we'll hear. In some communities we know that they're dealing with some environmental justice issues, whether they're located near landfills or they're located where they've got some water quality issues. Some communities that we're going to have no investment has been made. That when you look at the community on one side of the tracks, and if you're in the South, that on one side of the track, there's the black community, and on the other side of the tracks is the white community. And oftentimes there's been little to zero investment, particularly in these counties. So that's a concern as well that I think we'll hear.
Yeah, listen.
And also,
I'm sorry, Cliff, go ahead.
Justice. I was just going to add on also real quick criminal justice, and that involves policing, and not just like shootings and murders, which happen, right? These wrongful arrests, but also the daily policing issues. Like in many of these counties, you've got counties that are dependent on these magistrate courts, these traffic violations, and it's local folks who are bearing that brunt, right? It's that extra black tax of you're winding up in court more often and paying those fees. And a lot of the stops and things that become violent across the country, that become deadly, originate with this over-policing and this over-reliance on the criminal justice system to fund these local governments, particularly in these rural areas that can be really bad.
Yeah. No, you're right. That is very important. And I was saying to somebody else just last week, folks, as you all talk about being in these rural areas and the lack of health care and emergency services. Because I'm telling you,
that's right.
When I'm down there in the South with y'all and we coming through Selma and we driving down those roads and I don't see no doctor, no hospital for miles. So that would trip me out. So if I get sick, what ambulance am I going to call? That kind of stuff is important. And LaTosha, if there's no emergency service, you just die.
That's right. There's some people that have to drive almost 100 miles to get access to health care. This is the richest country in the world. That's completely unacceptable. Why are we not taking care of our people? And that's why we've got to register folks to vote, and we've got to turn out in record numbers because we've got to support people who will support our agenda. Every single person deserves a quality education, access to quality education, quality health care, housing. Those are the kinds of things that we're out here, Black Voters Matter, that we're advocating for with our community.
Indeed.
And I just want to lift up, you mentioned Selma just a second ago. I really just want to lift up the fact that, you've been coming to Selma, doing the commemorations and other things, not just when presidents are coming, right? But even in those off years, right?
In the unglamorous years, the unglamorous times.
That's right. And we really appreciate you that amplifying the issues that are going on in the South and doing it so consistently.
Well, no, we're all, children of Selma. I look at what you've been doing, Cliff. I look at what LaTosha's doing, leading this Black Voters Matter piece. She's a child and student of the Selma Jubilee movement. She's doing great things. So all of this is very, very important. And, I'm glad to be a part of it. And I'm married what both of you do. We're going to talk again in the morning. I won't keep you now. I know y'all going to get on the road. They're going to be going, grinding through the highway, going on this bus tour, folks, registering voters. We look forward to hearing more about it. Good luck with everything. And we will check back in the morning. Folks, Black Voters Matter Black Voters Matter Fund.org. Right, LaTosha? That's the right way to say it, right?
That's it. And follow us on Twitter, Black Voters MTR, Black Voters Matter. Follow us on Twitter. We're doing updates all throughout the day, throughout the tour, so people can follow us. All right. Good luck on the road today, folks, and we'll check in tomorrow, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you both. Appreciate you. 866-99-SIRIUS, 866-997-4748. And let it be noted Two, that, all of this conversation and criticism of our party, of the Democratic Party, and our candidates, and, we're not talking about the issues. We're only talking about Trump. That's just not true. As Cliff and LaTosha laid out, people are dealing with real issues in these congressional districts. You have no choice. All politics is local. That's not getting necessarily the television coverage that is warranted. When you're out of power, when you're not in the White House, you don't have that national leader spokesperson, so to speak, unless you're Republican. Then John McCain was on television every day. And Mitt Romney was on television every day when he lost. It's different when you're a white male Republican because you get to stay on TV every day. All right? And you lose. Anyway, for the Democratic Party, which includes all of us on the left and all of us who are progressives, that's not the case at all. So the criticism is, well, where are the Democrats on this? And they're not dealing with real issues. No, there's no national media coverage in every district, so to speak. But the candidates in the CDs in the congressional districts, the candidates running for governor, Stacey Abrams, Ben Jealous, Andrew Gillum, they're going to be going to Florida too. Okay? Because Andrew Gillum's primary is too. Andrew Gillum could win this. You could have 3 African-American gubernatorial nominees to go along with our Native American sister, Paulette Jordan, in Idaho. So this is real. We ain't playing with this. All of these candidates are dealing with their local, state, and congressional district issues. They're not running on Trump or against Trump. Of course, he comes up. The national media talks about Trump all the time. I talk about Trump because it's a national radio show. But I'm also talking about, that's why I asked, what are some of the local issues people are dealing with in their local communities? That's the other issue that we're discussing. So, that being said, we're going to win. And people can be naive and think, well, they're just running against Trump. Well, even if folks started running against Trump after today, okay, it's not as if they'd have no reason to. Trump is now an unindicted co-conspirator. My last guest said it. He has been implicated in criminal activity. Now, you notice he ain't said anything about Cohen. He hasn't said anything yet. So, let's be mindful of that. Why is he quiet about Cohen? He said Manafort, it's a sad thing about Manafort, and it shouldn't have happened to Manafort. But, what are you saying about Cohen? Manafort did not flip yet or implicate Trump in a crime. Not yet. Now, he probably will. His latest tweets are from last night. He hadn't tweeted in 11 hours. He's up early in the morning tweeting. He quiet today, though. Check that out. Scott Dworkin is going to join us at the top of the hour, so stay tuned for that. Sirius XM Progress 127 Resistance Radio. More of your calls, your thoughts about the looming impeachment or indictment. It is certain now that one of those things is going to happen. We'll take a break. Sirius XM Progress 127 Resistance Radio. Get woke, get ready for impeachment. Get woke and vote. This is MIP.